Breaking. Liz Truss has just been spectacularly vindicated as Britain's economy crashes under Keir Starmer's leadership. Financial markets are in free fall, with the pound reaching historic lows against the dollar. The economic disaster that experts insisted would follow Truss's policies has instead arrived under Labour's watch with devastating force. Treasury officials are in complete panic mode. 3 emergency meetings have been called in the last 24 hours. And what happened next has triggered the most serious Labour rebellion since Starmer took office. If you want to understand how this economic catastrophe unfolds, hit subscribe now, because the political and financial fallout will reshape British politics for years to come. Here's what sparked this unprecedented economic meltdown. Just 4 days ago, Chancellor Rachel Reeves unveiled Labour's first comprehensive budget since taking office. What was promoted as a responsible path to growth has instead detonated a financial bomb under the British economy. The budget presentation was broadcast live across all major networks. Global investors and financial analysts were watching every detail. The government promised stability and prudent economic management, but at precisely 12:43 p.m, the Chancellor announced tax measures that have now crashed the British economy in ways eerily similar to what critics predicted would happen under Liz Truss's leadership. The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. The pound sterling plummeted 7% against the dollar in just 3 hours of trading. Government bond yields soared to their highest level since the 2022 mini-budget crisis. The FTSE 100 recorded its worst single-day performance in 14 years. In her budget, Reeves had introduced a series of unexpected wealth taxes. Britain requires significant investment in public services, she stated confidently, and those with the broadest shoulders must bear the greatest burden. We are implementing a 2.5% annual tax on assets over £10 million and increasing capital gains tax to match income tax rates. The House erupted in chaos. Conservative MPs shouted "Shame" and "Venezuela" across the chamber. Even some Labour backbenchers looked visibly uncomfortable. But Reeves continued, her voice rising above the tumult. Furthermore, we are introducing a 45% windfall tax on energy companies, banks and technology firms that have profited excessively during recent crises. These measures will raise £95 billion for vital public services. Financial analysts watching from trading floors around the world immediately began selling British assets. One hedge fund manager was captured on Bloomberg television saying, "They've just destroyed investor confidence for a generation." Then came the most devastating announcement. This government is also implementing temporary capital controls to prevent tax avoidance during this transition period. For 6 months, transfers exceeding £50,000 to overseas accounts will require Treasury approval. With those words, Reeves didn't just modify British tax policy. She triggered a full-scale financial panic that has now reached global proportions. Within minutes of the speech concluding, former Prime Minister Liz Truss requested an emergency right to respond. Speaker Lindsay Hoyle, recognising the extraordinary circumstances, granted the request. At 2:15 p.m, Truss approached the dispatch box to deliver remarks that have now gone viral across global media. "Today vindicates everything I have said about the economic danger of a Labour government," she began, her voice steady and controlled. "The market reaction we are witnessing isn't about my policies or the current government's policies. It's about trust and confidence." The House fell silent as she continued. "Last year, I was forced from office after proposing growth-oriented tax cuts that experts claimed would crash the economy. Today, this Chancellor has imposed growth-destroying tax hikes that are actually crashing the economy before our eyes. The hypocrisy is breathtaking." Then came her most powerful statement. "The difference isn't economic, it's ideological. Markets can accept tax cuts aimed at growth. They cannot accept wealth taxes aimed at redistribution. That's the simple truth this government failed to understand, and British citizens will pay the price for their ignorance." As she sat down, something remarkable happened. Conservative MPs erupted in sustained applause. Several Labour backbenchers remained noticeably silent rather than supporting their front bench. Social media exploded with the hashtag number Truss Vindicated, which reached #1 trending worldwide within hours. International reaction was swift and devastating. JP Morgan issued a client note warning of Venezuelan-style economic risk in the UK. BlackRock immediately reduced its British asset holdings by £17 billion. The IMF, which had criticised Truss's policies, now expressed serious concerns about policy predictability in the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, ordinary British citizens who ridiculed Truss last year are now facing far worse economic consequences under Starmer's leadership. Margaret Wilson, a 62-year-old pensioner from Leeds, told reporters outside her local supermarket, "I remember laughing at Liz Truss when everyone said she crashed the pound. Now look at us. My pension's worth even less, my energy bills are higher and food prices are through the roof." Maybe she wasn't the problem after all. Across Britain, similar revelations are emerging. In Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle and beyond, citizens are connecting their financial struggles directly to Labour's policies. Polling indicates 64% of Britons now believe the economy is heading in the wrong direction, a higher percentage than during the Truss administration. While Starmer and his cabinet insist their policies are necessary for long-term prosperity, the financial markets are delivering a ruthless verdict. Government borrowing costs have reached levels that make public spending plans mathematically impossible without massive debt increases. We're talking about a complete reversal of the economic narrative that destroyed Truss and brought Labour to power. On one side, a vindicated former Prime Minister watching her analysis proven correct in real time. On the other, a government facing the very crisis they claimed their opponents would cause. The contrast is so stark, so politically devastating that even traditional Labour supporters are questioning the government's competence. Former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney, typically sympathetic to centre-left economic policies, warned that confidence once lost is extremely difficult to regain. Then something extraordinary happened that nobody saw coming. As financial markets continued their collapse and the pound reached its lowest level in 37 years, rebellion erupted within Labour's own ranks. At precisely 4:30 p.m, 17 Labour MPs from the party's right wing released a joint statement that has shaken the government to its core. Led by former Minister Pat McFadden, the statement represented the most significant internal challenge to Starmer's leadership since taking office. "The current economic approach is proving disastrous for our constituents and our country," the statement read. "The policies announced in the budget directly contradict the moderate, fiscally responsible platform on which we were elected. We cannot support measures that are destroying business confidence, pension values and economic stability." The statement continued, "We urge the Prime Minister and Chancellor to immediately withdraw the proposed capital controls and wealth tax provisions before permanent damage is done to Britain's economic reputation. Should these policies continue, we will be forced to consider our positions within the parliamentary party." Parliamentary experts call this the most serious rebellion against a first-year Labour government in the modern British history. The 17 signatories represent enough votes to potentially defeat the government in crucial upcoming budget votes. Government sources reveal that Starmer immediately summoned the rebel MPs to an emergency meeting at Downing Street. The meeting reportedly lasted 3 hours and was described by one participant as incredibly heated. The optics were devastating. While financial markets burned and the pound collapsed, the Prime Minister was forced to negotiate with members of his own party rather than addressing the crisis. Former Chancellor George Osborne called it the beginning of the end for Starmer's economic policy. Even traditionally supportive media outlets struggled to defend the government, with The Guardian's editorial board calling for an urgent policy reset to restore market confidence. Within hours of the rebellion becoming public, Britain's economic crisis deepened dramatically. S&P Global announced it was placing the UK's credit rating on negative watch, threatening a downgrade that would increase borrowing costs across the economy. Fitch Ratings followed with a similar announcement hours later. The Bank of England called an emergency meeting and announced a 1.5% emergency interest rate hike, the largest single increase since 1989. Governor Andrew Bailey explicitly cited the need to restore market confidence following recent policy announcements. Housing market analysts reported new mortgage applications falling 37% overnight as lenders withdrew products and repriced existing offers at significantly higher rates. First-time buyers face the prospect of being completely priced out of the market. High street retailers issued profit warnings as consumer confidence collapsed. John Lewis, Marks and Spencer and Next all saw shares fall by double-digit percentages as spending forecasts were slashed. International investors accelerated their exit from British assets. Japanese financial institutions sold £14 billion in UK government bonds. Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds reduced British holdings by an estimated £28 billion. Canadian pension funds announced a strategic reduction in UK exposure. Social media filled with ordinary citizens sharing stories of economic hardship. Videos comparing current economic data with the Truss era went viral, consistently showing worse outcomes under Starmer's leadership. Business owners posted heartbreaking announcements of closures and layoffs directly attributed to the new economic policies. Inside Whitehall, what began as economic policy quickly became a battle for political survival. Cabinet WhatsApp messages leaked to the Sunday Times revealed ministers in open panic. "The markets are in complete meltdown," wrote one cabinet member. "This is far worse than anything under Truss, and we're the ones who claim to be the economically competent choice. How do we survive this politically?" Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds reportedly warned of catastrophic business failures if policies weren't reversed immediately. "Every business organisation in the country is contacting my office. They're not just worried, they're terrified." Foreign Secretary David Lammy expressed alarm about diplomatic implications. "Our international partners are questioning Britain's stability and reliability. This affects everything from trade negotiations to security partnerships." But sources close to Chancellor Reeves describe her as surprisingly resistant to changing course. During an emergency economic strategy meeting, she reportedly told Treasury officials, "The market reaction is temporary, they'll adjust to our approach." Reversing course now would only create more instability. This stance has created a growing rift between Reeves and Starmer. Multiple sources confirm the Prime Minister is increasingly concerned about the political fallout and has begun consulting with senior advisers about potential policy reversals. 5 parliamentary private secretaries have already resigned their positions, according to Westminster sources. Each cited the economic crisis and their inability to defend the government's position to constituents as their reason for stepping down. More concerning for Starmer, several influential union leaders have publicly criticised the government's handling of the economy. Sharon Graham of Unite called it economic incompetence that hurts working people first and foremost. The trades union movement, Labour's traditional power base, appears to be fracturing over the crisis. Conservative leadership has seized the opportunity with remarkable effectiveness. Rishi Sunak, flanked by Liz Truss in a show of party unity, delivered a devastating critique outside Parliament. Last year, Sunak declared the Labour Party and their media allies destroyed Liz Truss for economic policies they claimed would crash the pound and raise interest rates. Today, Labour's actual policies have crashed the pound to even lower levels and forced even higher interest rate rises. The difference? When it happened under a Conservative, it was a disaster. When it happens under Labour, it's just temporary market adjustment. The hypocrisy is staggering. But here's the revelation that could permanently destroy Starmer's economic credibility. Treasury documents leaked to the Financial Times reveal that senior civil servants explicitly warned the government that their proposed tax measures would trigger exactly this market reaction. If these reports are accurate, and multiple sources now confirm them, then the Chancellor deliberately ignored professional economic advice for ideological reasons. Think about what that means. A government that gained power by claiming superior economic competence potentially ignored expert warnings about policies that have now created a crisis worse than the one they criticised. The political damage extends far beyond immediate market turmoil to fundamental questions about Labour's basic economic literacy. Senior economists have reportedly prepared a comprehensive analysis comparing current economic indicators with those during the Truss mini-budget. 3 separate studies confirm that by every significant measure, currency devaluation, bond yield increases, stock market declines and mortgage rate rises, the current crisis is substantially worse. The ramifications extend far beyond immediate market reactions. Investment analysts warn that the damage to Britain's economic reputation may take a decade to repair. This isn't just about policy disagreement, explained Professor Jonathan Porter of the London School of Economics. It's about destroying the foundational trust that underpins Britain's position as a global financial centre. While Starmer struggles for a response and Labour fractures, Liz Truss has emerged as an unexpected voice of economic authority. Her media appearances draw record viewership. Her economic analysis, once widely mocked, is now being quoted by financial analysts worldwide. The polls tell a devastating story for Labour. After enjoying a substantial post-election honeymoon, the party now trails the Conservatives by 7 points. More damaging still, when asked which party they trust to manage the economy, voters now favour the Conservatives by a staggering 24-point margin, the largest gap recorded in modern polling. For the first time since the election, serious discussions about Labour's ability to complete a full term in office are emerging from Westminster sources. The next 48 hours are critical. Treasury officials are working frantically to prevent further market collapse when trading resumes. Bank of England leaders are considering even more dramatic intervention measures. Business organisations are pleading for policy certainty to prevent mass layoffs. The question is no longer whether Labour's economic approach is ideologically sound. It's whether Britain's economy and Starmer's government can survive this self-inflicted wound. Britain is facing an economic and political crisis that combines the worst elements of the 2022 mini-budget panic with the 1,976 IMF bailout humiliation. This catastrophe will be studied for decades as a case study in political hypocrisy and economic mismanagement. At its centre stands Keir Starmer, a Prime Minister who campaigned on economic competence but now presides over financial chaos. And watching from the sidelines is Liz Truss, the former Prime Minister whose brief tenure ended over precisely the crisis her critics have now created. History suggests that when economic reality contradicts political narratives so dramatically, governments rarely survive intact. So here's the question that matters. Was Liz Truss right all along about the real threats to Britain's economy? Or can Labour still salvage both economic stability and their political credibility before it's too late? What do you think? Has Starmer's government created a worse crisis than the one they criticised, or will their policies eventually prove successful despite initial market turmoil? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and if this economic meltdown shocked you as much as it shocked us, share this video with everyone who needs to understand what's really happening in Britain's economy right now. The mainstream media won't admit they were wrong about Truss, but we will. Next week, we'll reveal exclusive details about emergency economic measures being considered by the government. Information that could help you protect your savings from what financial experts are calling Starmer's economic suicide.